And I've had people like, call me bad names, and I act like I didn't hear it. What you say, guy?
Joe Frazier was one of the toughest fighters who ever lived. He gave everything to boxing and expected the same respect in return. But the sport taught him harsh lessons about loyalty and honor. Many opponents saw Frazier as just another obstacle to overcome. They didn't care about his feelings or the sacrifices he made to reach the top. Frazier's heart was as big as his left hook, served dignity.
Break the rhythm up.
When someone disrespected him or the sport, Joe never forgot. He carried those grudges deep inside where nobody could see them. Some rivalries were born from jealousy, others came from deliberate cruelty and calculated insults. The 10 boxers we're counting down today left permanent marks on Joe Frazier's soul. They hurt him in ways that went far beyond physical pain. Some attacked his pride, while others destroyed his confidence completely. Let's explore the fighters who made Smokin' Joe's life absolute hell. 10. George Chuvalo. George Chuvalo never gave Joe Frazier the credit he deserved. Chuvalo was a tough Canadian fighter known for never being knocked down, but his attitude toward Frazier was disrespectful and dismissive. Chuvalo publicly criticized Frazier's boxing style, calling it too simple and unrefined. He acted like Frazier succeeded through pure aggression rather than actual skill. During interviews, Chuvalo suggested that Frazier got lucky in many of his victories. He downplayed Frazier's achievements and questioned whether Joe truly belonged among boxing's elite champions. These comments infuriated Frazier because he worked incredibly hard to perfect his craft. Chuvalo made it seem like anyone could do what Frazier did with enough determination. Even after both men retired, Chuvalo continued making negative remarks about Frazier's legacy. He rarely acknowledged Joe's contributions to heavyweight boxing history. Frazier believed Chuvalo was jealous because he never reached championship level himself. The constant criticism felt petty and unnecessary. Frazier expected respect from fellow warriors who understood the struggle. Instead, Chuvalo gave him nothing but dismissive attitudes that hurt deeply. 9. Oscar Bonavena. Oscar Bonavena was a wild and reckless fighter from Argentina. He turned boxing matches into street fights with his dangerous tactics. Bonavena didn't respect the rules or care about sportsmanship. Joe Frazier faced him twice, and both experiences were absolutely miserable. Bonavena used his head as a weapon constantly throughout their battles. The Argentine fighter threw illegal punches and used his elbows whenever the referee looked away. He grabbed Frazier's arms and wrestled him around the ring like they were in an alley brawl. Bonavena's style was dirty and meant to hurt opponents beyond normal fighting damage. Frazier believed in clean combat between skilled athletes. Bonavena spat on those principles with every foul move. During press conferences, Bonavena acted like a wild animal trying to intimidate everyone around him. He got in Frazier's face and made aggressive gestures designed to provoke reactions. 8. Jerry Quarry. Jerry Quarry was a skilled boxer who knew how to manipulate public opinion perfectly. He presented himself as the brave underdog fighting against overwhelming odds. The media loved Quarry's story and portrayed him as a sympathetic hero. Meanwhile, Frazier was painted as the aggressive villain who bullied smaller opponents. This narrative infuriated Joe because it twisted the truth completely. Quarry gave interviews where he acted humble and respectful in public. But privately, he made snide comments about Frazier's intelligence and background. Quarry played the victim card masterfully, gaining sympathy from fans and journalists. He made people believe Frazier was some kind of monster rather than a hard-working champion. The false image damaged Frazier's reputation among casual boxing fans. Frazier hated that Quarry made him look bad without throwing a single punch. The psychological games and media tricks felt cowardly and dishonest to Joe's straightforward personality. 7. Jimmy Ellis. Jimmy Ellis became heavyweight champion through politics rather than true fighting dominance. When Muhammad Ali got stripped of his title, Ellis jumped at the opportunity. He won a tournament to claim the vacant championship, but Frazier believed Ellis didn't deserve it. Ellis avoided fighting the real top contenders, including Frazier himself, for as long as possible. Ellis represented everything broken about the boxing business. He had powerful connections that protected him from dangerous fights. Meanwhile, Frazier was destroying everyone put in front of him without getting the recognition he earned. Ellis walked around calling himself champion while Frazier did the actual work, proving his superiority. When they finally fought, Frazier demolished Ellis brutally. The beating proved what everyone already knew deep down. Ellis was a paper champion who couldn't compete with real elite fighters. But the damage was done. Ellis had already enjoyed the fame and money that rightfully belonged to Frazier. Joe never forgave the system that allowed such injustice to happen. 6. Bob Foster. Bob Foster was a brilliant light heavyweight champion who constantly called out Joe Frazier publicly. Foster demanded heavyweight title fights while questioning Frazier's bravery in interviews. He suggested Joe was scared to face him despite the massive size difference. Foster used media appearances to embarrass Frazier and pressure him into responding. The disrespect angered Frazier because Foster knew exactly what he was doing. These public call-outs made Frazier look bad regardless of how he responded. If Joe ignored Foster, people thought he was afraid. If Joe acknowledged the challenges, it gave Foster more attention and credibility he didn't deserve at heavyweight level. Foster's approach was disrespectful showboating designed to build his own name at Frazier's expense. Joe hated being used as a promotional tool for someone else's career ambitions. 5. Buster Mathis. Buster Mathis and Joe Frazier started as training partners with genuine friendship between them. They pushed each other in the gym and helped develop each other's skills. But jealousy poisoned their relationship and turned Mathis bitter. Mathis was supposed to represent the United States at the 1964 Olympics. A broken hand forced him out and Frazier took his place instead. Joe went on to win Olympic gold while Mathis watched from home. Mathis never forgave Frazier for achieving the success that should have been his. The resentment grew stronger as Frazier's professional career took off. Mathis felt like Frazier stole his destiny and opportunities. When they finally fought as professionals, the bitterness was obvious. Mathis made it deeply personal instead of treating it as normal competition. Frazier defeated Mathis convincingly, but felt no satisfaction from the victory. Winning against a former friend who turned envious brought only sadness. Mathis couldn't be happy for Joe's accomplishments or accept his own circumstances gracefully. The jealousy destroyed what could have been a lifelong brotherhood. Frazier hated seeing someone he once trusted become consumed by bitter resentment and envy. 4. Ken Norton. Ken Norton brought a different kind of threat into Joe Frazier's life. Norton was calculating and methodical in everything he did. He studied opponents like a scientist examining specimens under microscopes. Norton discovered Frazier's weaknesses and exploited them without mercy or hesitation. His approach felt cold and almost robotic to Joe, who valued passion and heart. Norton used psychological warfare that was subtle but extremely effective. He rarely engaged in trash talk or obvious disrespect. Instead, Norton communicated through body language and dismissive gestures. He looked at Frazier like he was already defeated before fights even began. This silent intimidation got under Joe's skin worse than any spoken insults could. During their interactions, Norton showed no warmth or human connection. Everything about him felt calculated to gain mental advantages. Frazier thrived on emotional intensity and genuine combat between warriors. Norton stripped away those elements, leaving only cold, strategic calculations. The inhuman quality of Norton's approach disturbed Frazier deeply. 3. Larry Holmes. Larry Holmes destroyed Joe Frazier in a way that felt cruel and unnecessary. By the time they fought, Frazier was well past his prime and everyone knew it. Holmes was young, sharp, and at the peak of his abilities. The fight was a complete mismatch from the opening bell. Holmes battered Frazier mercilessly round after round without showing any compassion. Frazier's corner begged the referee to stop the fight, but Holmes kept punishing the aging legend. Joe absorbed brutal punishment that he never should have endured. Holmes showed no respect for what Frazier represented in boxing history. He treated Joe like any other opponent rather than a warrior who paved the way for fighters like him. After the fight, Holmes made comments that minimized Frazier's career accomplishments. He acted like beating an old man somehow proved his own greatness. The lack of grace and honor disgusted people who understood boxing traditions. Frazier felt humiliated by the one-sided beating and disrespected by Holmes's attitude afterward. A true champion would have shown mercy and acknowledged Frazier's legendary status with proper reverence and gratitude. 2. George Foreman. George Foreman inflicted the most devastating defeat of Joe Frazier's entire career. Their championship fight in Jamaica was supposed to be competitive. Instead, Foreman demolished Frazier in less than 2 rounds. Big George knocked Joe down 6 times with terrifying power punches. Each knockdown crushed Frazier's spirit more than the last one. The world watched their indestructible champion get destroyed like he was nothing. The loss shattered Frazier's confidence and mystique completely. He was never the same fighter mentally after experiencing Foreman's overwhelming power. The beating was so one-sided that people began questioning whether Frazier was ever truly great. Foreman showed little remorse for the brutal destruction he caused that night. He celebrated his dominance while Frazier dealt with embarrassment and trauma. Years later, Foreman and Frazier became friends, which complicated Joe's feelings. But friendship couldn't erase the psychological damage from that horrible night. The public remembered Frazier's humiliation more than his greatest victories. 1. Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali caused Joe Frazier more pain than any other human being. Their rivalry went beyond boxing into pure hatred. Ali called Frazier terrible names like ugly, ignorant, and worst of all, Uncle Tom. These racial insults cut deeper than any punch ever could. Ali attacked Frazier's dignity and self-respect for years without stopping. The cruelty started as fight promotion but became something far worse. Ali turned the public against Frazier, making him the villain in their story. Fans booed Joe while cheering for Ali, despite Joe supporting Ali during his suspension from boxing. The betrayal hurt Frazier's heart permanently. Ali never truly apologized for the psychological torture he inflicted. He laughed about it in interviews like the pain meant nothing. Frazier carried that anger until his dying day. Their 3 fights were legendary, but the emotional scars lasted forever. Ali destroyed more than Frazier's body. He damaged Joe's soul in ways that never healed. That's why Ali tops this list easily. Joe Frazier's rivalries shaped boxing history forever. These 10 fighters brought different kinds of pain into his legendary career. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Smokin' Joe's battles, smash that subscribe button and drop a comment with your thoughts below.